Hi, Sharee here from Ashima Living. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a naturopath and a yoga and a mindfulness teacher specializing in helping people overcome anxiety naturally. Today I wanted to talk about how a naturopath can potentially help with anxiety. But before I do that, I'll just back it up a little bit and quickly explain what a naturopath does. In case you have never heard of it or have no idea. So basically, as naturopaths, we study the basic medical sciences, things like, biochemistry, anatomy, pathogenesis, pharmacology, those kinds of subjects, as well as natural interventions for treating various conditions. So it can vary from school to school, but most naturopaths would study particularly herbal medicine, and clinical nutrition, and then maybe some other therapies as well. So usually behavioral therapies are in there, stress reduction, lifestyle modifications, those kinds of things. So one of the big kind of differences, I suppose, with seeing a naturopath is typically our first consultation. If you go to see a naturopath, it's usually a lot longer than when you go to see a GP. We typically spend at least 60 minutes, often more, during the first session to take a really thorough case history. So even if you're coming in for a headache, for example, we're going to ask lots of questions about everything, about your diet, about your hormones, about everything, because we really believe that everything is interconnected, and we're trying to find the root cause in your symptoms, because it can vary from person to person. So as an example with anxiety, a lot of us might have the assumption that anxiety is just something up in our heads and has nothing to do with our physical being. But the truth is, anxiety has both physical and mental precipitating factors behind it. So for example, physical things that can worsen or trigger anxiety can be things like certain nutrient deficiencies, particularly magnesium, vitamin B12, iron, for example, can have an impact. Blood sugar imbalances is a big one. So if you're eating a diet that's very high in sugar and refined carbohydrates and caffeine, what this does is really upset your blood sugar balance, and the body perceives this as very stressful, and you will release stress hormones every time this happens. And for some people, that can actually trigger anxiety. What else? Hormones is a big one, especially for women. So you might be aware that anxiety can increase, and depression, around the time of a woman's period, with pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause. So there's often a hormonal aspect to it for some people. Thyroid is another big one, and that's something that is often a lot of women in particular can suffer from subclinical hypothyroidism, meaning that it's not really showing up properly in the standard testing that you get done with your GP. Another subject altogether. I've got information on my blog about how to get the most accurate tests done. And gut is a big one as well. So you might have heard or read about the gut-brain connection, but the gut's really, really important because we actually manufacture a lot of our, what we think of as brain chemicals, things like serotonin, for example, which is a very calming, mood-boosting neurotransmitter. We actually manufacture the majority of these in the gut, and what we need is the right nutrients going in, certain amino acids, plus the right bacteria in the gut, because it's the beneficial bacteria that actually help this conversion. So gut's a really, really big one as well. So these are just some of the physical factors, but it's never just physical or just mental typically. Usually there's a combination of both. So mental things can be, if you've had a history of trauma, if you're someone that's prone to worrying, if there's a lot of intrusive thoughts, if you're someone that's very disconnected from your body and up in your head all of the time, lifestyle or external stresses these are big factors too. So like I say, it's usually a mix, which is why I like to support the nervous system from the physical side, as well as I work with mindfulness as well, so that patients have the tools to address these mental factors at the same time. So it's a really good integrated approach. No matter what, I think diet is really, really important. I actually have a free downloadable anti-anxiety calming foods diet that I give out to my patients and anyone that visits my website or blog. I'm happy to link it for you either above or below this video, and you can give it a try. But yeah, if it's not, if you're not getting a handle on your symptoms, I encourage you to explore naturopathy as an option. It can be a good adjunct to whatever else you're doing. If you're already seeing a GP, on medication, seeing a counselor, it can be a good adjunct to add in some extra support. But even on its own, I've got many patients that find it extremely effective just on its own. So I hope you found this enlightening. Go ahead, download the diet if you want to, and thanks so much for listening.